Okay, good.
All right, we're good.
All right, if you want to hand that back, then I can start to record on this side. Or you can record, either way.
No, I'll send it back to Village of Trumansburg.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, it is 7:01, so I will call to order this July regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. The only person we are currently missing is Trustee Hannon, who will be joining us a little bit late. Item number 2 is changes to the agenda. We do have a couple of additions. When Keith gets here, he has something he's going to talk about, I think, with respect to body cams under the police report. Under old business, after insulation quotes, we will talk about additional heat in parts of the building. Ben has quotes for us on that. We need to add under new business, we have a bond refunding resolution. And anything else that anyone else has to add or delete from the agenda?
Are we going to just mention the sewer law?
Yes, sewer law. We will talk about the progress of the new sewer law. Anything else? Okay. Item number 3 is approval of minutes. We have 2 different meeting minutes to approve. First is from June 8th, was our regular June meeting. The second was a special meeting on June 22nd. Both sets of minutes are in the Dropbox. If someone would like to move one or both of those, then we can see about any edits.
I move to accept both sets of minutes.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion, edits, comments, concerns? Everything looks good?
I think it's good.
Okay. Terrific. Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor of accepting the June 8th and June 22nd, 2020 meeting minutes as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Item number 4 on the agenda is our first public comment period. Privilege of the floor. I see one member of the public present. Although she could probably fall under representatives as well. I don't know if Jessica had something she wanted to say or if she's just observing as a village board candidate.
Hi, now I'm here and unmuted. That's how we roll. Do you,
Very nice.
do questions in the chat? I didn't see a chat.
No, we should do everything by audio for sake of the recording. So if there's anything you want to say or contribute to the public comment period, now's your chance.
So I guess I would like to say thanks so much for doing this on Zoom and for making the link accessible to the public. That's a big deal. And hosting these meetings, we all know, is not super easy, though unfortunately we're all getting better at it. So I did just have a question, and I apologize for having not attended past meetings where this may have been addressed. I'm wondering if there's any budgetary line item and or inclination of the board to allocate funds for some diversity, equity, and inclusion training for staff and or emergency response staff.
It's a good question. All training tends to be allocated from a budgetary standpoint on a department by department basis. I know that, for instance, police department, they have a variety of different kinds of trainings that they go to. First response, so we're talking about EMS. Historically, training other than what's required by certification tends to be on a voluntary basis. Civil service law being what it is, there's certain limitations to what we can require, but it's certainly something we can look into further and see what what training is available, how relevant it is, specifically to different departments, how useful or relevant it might be, and then we can always allocate dollars to it at budget time, just like everything else.
And if I were curious, how could I find out what already is in place for, say, the police department? Is that, how would I figure out what they're already doing?
Yeah, I would go to each department head individually. I would talk
And
to
just-
Chief Nelson. I would talk to Chris Fox at EMS. Talk to the fire chief. Now, fire department is a little bit of a different animal because they are not village employees. They are fire company members. So members of a separate not-for-profit, the village would not be able to require training of them outside of what is required by New York State for firefighters. So they have all kinds of training if you want to be an interior firefighter, exterior firefighter. Scene response, there's different categories, but those are state mandated. Village actually, there's probably a way, but it wouldn't be an easy one for the village to require a fire company member to receive training of any kind. But certainly for the village employees, the village departments, DPW, obviously talk to Dusty. So they would be who I would go to first to find out what their what they have on their docket as far as training.
Because
the
they're
upcoming
they're
year.
very well. So this is just a question from someone who had to go through this through her organization that she works for, and it expanded a lot of how you think. And there are very well already maybe measures in place. So it's also a question of curiosity. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just to expand on that a little, Jessica, there is there's an annual mandatory sexual harassment training that I know all village employees have to take. So there are certain trainings that are mandated by either the state or federal government that are already in place, and it's usually as it is in most corporate environments, it's usually a webinar or a video, that kind of approach. But then any additional trainings, the department heads would be able to let you know what either they have planned or what the employees have volunteered for.
Okay, so now I guess I do have a follow-up question, if I may,
Sure.
which would be, so I politely ask the department heads, however it is, I reach out to them maybe through email just to see what's already in place. And then if it turns out they're like, well, there isn't, would they then, but we really want that, would they then petition the village board as part of their budget to say, we'd like to include this, if they as department heads felt like that was something they'd like to include, if they don't already have enough or they want a different direction? How would that happen?
Yeah, that would be the most formal way of doing it. Generally speaking, our department heads don't petition. It's more of a text or a phone call saying, hey, we need this. So yeah, I mean, either Chief, Chris, or Dusty, if they see a need for something, then they just let us know, and we try to find the funds for it.
Okay, I think that really is it.
Yeah, let's see. Anyone else show up from the public? And Jessica, after September, you don't have to ask so politely if you don't want to. So seeing no one else from the public present at the moment, we will move on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is reports from representatives. I only see Ann Corman present at the moment. And the floor is yours.
Alrighty, I guess I'll go first then. Don't have to arm wrestle with Nancy. So let's see, the rental assistance is still available. I can't remember if I brought that up to you guys before. So the county provided rental assistance, and the INHS is the manager of that. So if you know anybody that might be having difficulty paying their rent for residents, they can go on to the INHS website. They can go to the county website, but INHS, since they're managing it, you might as well go directly right to them. And let's see, we did a resolution at the county to approve federal funding. Well, a resolution urging them to approve federal funding for the states and municipalities. We also talked with Chuck Schumer, who is very supportive and has helped us with a lot of different things before. So we're hoping that people will also urge the federal government to do that, because not only, Tompkins County is better fiscally right now than a lot of other counties around the state, but still we're going to be hurting with at least probably on the good side, $5 to $6 million deficit. And on the high side, it could be as much as 13. And that's still with some unforeseen things of whether the colleges are actually going to come back and how that's going to go, and whether the state is going to impose any other additional decreases in our funding. Let's see, you've probably heard lots about the quarantining. We're asking people to quarantine when they come back from other states, which I think that have a high incidence of COVID or high rates. And right now, I think that's up to like 30 different states. So it changes every day, but it's on the state website, or you can call our health department. So we're asking people, if you know of somebody that is coming in to visit or business purposes or whatever from one of those states, and they're not quarantining, you can call our health department and they'll talk to them and hopefully get them to do that. And that's where our cases that have gone up were, I didn't check the numbers for today, but they've been going up since the 4th of July because people were having gatherings and not always following the protocols, and also some people coming in from out of state. TCAT buses will remain fare-free for the rest of the summer. Don't know if you heard about that. And we're encouraging people to use the bus. There can be up to 20 people at a time on the bus, we feel, and being able to socially or physically distance. You have to wear masks. You can use the front door or the side door where people can usually exit, because since you don't have to pay for a fare, you can come in kind of on the back side of the bus and just go in quickly and take a seat and not have to really interact with anybody. We were looking at we had a budget meeting today, just a regular budget meeting for the county. And we have quite a few people out on furloughs. And we're looking at a good portion of them maybe, well, to me it's a lot, because I don't want to see anybody have to be on furlough and collecting unemployment. I think we have at least 20 people still out on furloughs, and there's a good chance that they're going to continue to be furloughed till the end of the year. And one of the reasons why we're doing that is because we really don't want to lay people off, and this gives them health insurance too. We're providing full coverage, well, our share of their health insurance. So that keeps them with a pretty good health insurance. And we're looking at possibly the first of the year, around 20 people that we're going to have to lay off. And we're looking at all kinds of other budget cuts, as you can imagine, not hiring people and not having renovations done, even deferring building maintenance, nobody being able to buy new furniture or vehicles, or do trainings and travel unless it's really necessary. One thing that we are doing, we still are hiring for our HR department, human resources director, and we are hiring a chief diversity and equity officer, because especially now we thought with the human rights crisis we're having right now, we thought that was something that was really important. So we are put money back in the budget to do that. I think that's about it.
Great, thanks, Ann. Any questions from anyone on the board or Ann? Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Board member reports, starting with fire, CPZR, and farmers market.
Sure. So, oh, excuse me, I didn't bring up the fire numbers right off the top of my head. So for fire, for the month of June, there were 22 total calls, 8 for the village of Trumansburg specifically, and the company was involved in 180.5 training hours and 16.12 fire rescue hours for a total of 196.62 hours. And the year-to-date calls is 66, which includes that 22 from the month. The company is gonna had planned their annual banquet a few months ago, and due to COVID, obviously had to reschedule that. So there will be a award ceremony, a brief award ceremony on the beginning of August with their August company meeting, which I believe Roden and myself will attend to present Jason with a plaque for his years of service as the chief, fire chief, and we'll look forward to thanking him in person and presenting him with that plaque. And the other big point on fire right now is I've been working with members of the various towns that we contract with, or that contract with us for fire coverage, to rethink and reimagine the cost sharing equation, as it were, that splits the share of the coverage and the cost of the fire service across the different municipalities. So we had our first meeting last month. Fairly good conversation. I think we were able to land on general agreement of what that new equation will look like. It'll be a balance of property tax value and call volume. And we're kind of figuring that piece out. And we're going to look through a couple more details and reconvene towards the end of this month after folks have had time to chat about it with their boards, see if there's any feedback from any of the boards, and then try and get the last bit of details around when to start rolling that out, how long to spread that change over, probably a number of years. And we'll kind of button that all up for discussion and for kind of presentation with the meeting we have typically kind of in the fall to talk about the budget for EMS and fire going into the town's 2021 budgeting. So that's it for fire. On the CPZR side, we ran a survey for the community over the past month that continued a bit into July, and we are formally closing that now. I actually have a reminder to go do that shortly after this. The committee will be meeting on Thursday. We'll start taking a look at those results and trying to dig through them. Some things, kind of popped fairly obvious came out of that just by quickly breezing through kind of the default review and graphics that come out of the Google form there. But we're going to dig a little bit deeper and make sure we're really capturing everything that's in there and integrating it into the comprehensive plan. We're continuing to work through the draft chapters. At this point, we're all but complete with chapter 3, and then chapter 4 is the last big chapter to work through. We've just received the draft from EDR around that, so we'll start digging into that as well. And then the other big question for that committee is kind of what do we want the rest of this process to look like? Realizing that we almost certainly won't have any more public information meetings in person after this. So we had one to kind of kick it off, but we're going to have to figure out how do we make the most accessible kind of opportunities for people to participate and understand and give feedback around the draft comp plan when it becomes available, hopefully in the fall. So we'll start figuring out what that looks like. And then finally on the market side, things seem to be going pretty well. Continues to kind of open up as we see our region move through the phases. Folks are able to now purchase food there, dinner food and sit and eat and stay. So it's almost feeling like a little bit of a market again. I went actually just last week and brought a picnic blanket and hung out and had a good time, respectfully distancing from everybody. But they seem to be running a pretty great ship there. So definitely encourage people to go take a look. And if you don't feel comfortable there, you can always pick up food and take it home, which is what we were doing for a couple of weeks too. So I think that's it for fire, CPCR, and market, unless folks have questions.
Any questions for Ben? One thing I will say is if any of the other board members would like to attend the fire company meeting, where we will be presenting former Chief Fulton with a plaque of appreciation, you are all invited by the fire company. They did make mention of anyone from the board who would like to attend being welcome to do so. So that will be Wednesday, August the 5th, I believe.
Yeah, that's right, I think.
Wednesday, August the 5th, their regular meeting starts at, I think, 7, and we're going to do the ceremony around 7:45. Next up, EMS Youth and Street Tree Advisory.
So for EMS, we have 5 calls in the village, 12 in Ulysses, 2 in Interlaken, which is mutual aid, 2 in Hector, and 3 in Covert, which is noticeably down. I don't know exactly what our average is, but that puts us at about, what is it, almost 25 calls in the whole district for the month. So that's substantially lower than average. Usually we're in the 40s at least. So I imagine that's people being respectful of the strain on our, medical infrastructure, but we'll see how it plays out. I have been talking with Chris a little bit about how to report back the information that everyone had asked for at the last month's meeting, and we're not quite there. We do have we're going to meet this Friday and sort of go over things. So hopefully for next month, we'll have something ready to present regularly, or at least a trial to go with. For youth, I sent out an email, but summer camp is officially not happening. Will and Nancy, I think, really made a Herculean effort to try and make something work. And it just, the guidelines, I think, were too strict to really work with. And it's sort of the absurdity of this situation that it's kind of a double bind. We could have created a camp, but the camp would have been so restrictive and so strange as far as COVID requirements that it really wasn't ever going to feel like a camp. So in trying to figure this out, Will sent out a survey to parents who had pre-registered for camp, and the majority of them just said, if that's what camp looks like, we won't go. So we are, or rather Will is trying to put together some slate of offerings for the summer so that there will be some activities, and the county, as well as Will, but primarily the county is also working on ways to get childcare for people who need it, who may have otherwise relied on camps that, like ours, are not operating. So we'll see, hopefully something will come out of that. One thing that we talked about at our last youth commission meeting is that with school starting up potentially maybe in every other day or every other week or some kind of limited fashion, I think our our families in this area are going to be impacted in just tremendously. And there was a general feeling on the youth commission that anyone with any ideas about how we could soften that blow or ways that the village could be supportive. I mean, obviously, I may find out through the youth commission, but if anyone has any ideas of things that we could do that might help, I would like to be able to say that the village would be on board and would be supportive, which I have been saying and I do believe to be true. But if anyone has any ideas or thoughts about that, it is not that far out that school will be starting. So it will be, I think, at the beginning of COVID, I think especially Rorden and Ben have done a really good job of putting the village presence out there in a way that felt really positive and beneficial for people and was really helpful. And I think we may be looking at another sort of crisis-y feeling moment. I mean, not crisis is a strong word there, but another kind of crux of this whole pandemic will be schools and how families in particular deal with that. And then the last thing is the tree committee. We sent out letters last month. We've received responses from all but 2 homeowners. all of them are pursuing taking down their trees. At least one has already come down. I know the others have at least started working on estimates. One is trying to work through NICEAG, which is unlikely to work, but is worth a shot. But anyway, that is progressing nicely. We also had, I don't know if you remember, but I put together a tour of the trees in the village that got a lot of good feedback and people seem to really enjoy. So the tree committee was talking about ways that we could use the tree markers that are already at the water tower property. I don't know if anyone has ever walked around out there, but it's pretty cool. I mean, they're all of the species of tree are marked out there. And I think at one point the village had a program where we were giving trees of various species, and all of those species were planted at the water tower. So they're all marked so that people who were like, oh, I'd really like a Zelkova or a sugar maple or something could go and see what they looked like mature. But anyway, so we're looking into ways that we could maybe put together another tour there, do something like that. I believe Dusty put some picnic tables out also at that spot just to kind of encourage people to go and look at those trees, but we're not really not sure how to approach that. And I also wanted to run it by everyone here to see if we want to encourage people to go to that spot. I think it's kind of cool, but I don't really know what village policy is. I mean, it's obviously not a designated park. It is village property. So I don't know how that plays out, and just wanted to get feedback on how we feel about encouraging people to go out there.
And I don't think there's anything, I mean, we do encourage people to go to the farmer's market. That's village property. So I don't think there's anything for that particular purpose. I don't know that there'd be any reason why we wouldn't encourage people to take advantage of that green space.
That was kind of my thing. I just wanted to get feedback, or if there's other ideas. I don't know. I mean, at this point, obviously, I think the big consideration is just mowing. And if there's tables out there and that kind of thing, it makes mowing harder. But obviously, we're coordinating with Dusty. So, yeah, I think that's all. Unless anyone has any questions about any of it.
Any questions for Ben? DPW water sewer.
Okay, just have a couple of things. So we have completed the televising of the stormwater, sewer water pipes. And the videos are to be delivered to MRB this week. They found some interesting things like rocks and stopped up grease traps while they were doing this. So all of that's been cleaned up, and the videos will give us a better view into what's going on for the I&I. In addition to that, we have placed a temporary meter outside of the Obels so that we are monitoring flow there. We never had a clear picture directly off of that main. And just regular summer stuff, mowing, keeping up. Things are going all right, going well. And that's actually all I had. Of course, we did meet on the sewer law.
Yeah.
Where did we put that on the agenda? Should I
Right
just
now.
talk to it? Okay. we met on the sewer law. Royden and I met with MRB. It is, I think, over 70 pages long. We will be providing a copy to everyone this evening. We'd like you to take your time reviewing the sewer law and familiarizing yourself with it and coming up with any questions. And there's a couple of points that MRB took back that when Royden and I went through it, we had already come up with. So, but in the meantime, it's going to take a while, so it's not going to happen during this meeting. We're not going to review it. So.
Yeah, I mean, by way for Ben and Ben, it was 19. I think the sewer ordinance that's currently in effect is from 1967 and has not been updated. So this takes our whatever 7 or 8 page sewer ordinance, and this version is 94 pages. So you want to take your time. Most of it is either boilerplate from DEC or EPA with some specifics for the village built in. But if you see things particularly around inspection and enforcement, if you see things that raise questions, that would be the kind of thing we would want to flesh out before we turn it over to Guy and let him give his opinion on it. So I'll send that out either later today or tomorrow. And if we can have it kind of at least reviewed in our minds by our August meeting, then we can go from there.
That's what, like 1 extra page per year? Is that roughly how that works out?
Just about. Just about. Let's see.
It's not bad reading. You'll become intimately involved. Ben.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Deb, were the televising, were they able to catch some of the rain over the past few days?
I think they finished last week.
Yeah.
So no. But the meter was in there, so that'll be caught for sure.
From this
They
week?
should be pulling it to look at the end of this week.
Okay, good. So we'll come back to Keith when he gets here for police and TACC. Vicky, welcome back.
Thank you. So I think I'm caught up with the invoices, caught up with payments. My plan is this week to try and at least get May closed so I can start working on the AUD. And I also have the bank statements to do June. So over the next couple weeks, that's my plan. I have spoke to Matt about fire budgets and that we really need them by mid-August for the village board to review. I haven't had a chance to talk to Chris. Matt's is pretty, he doesn't seem to think he's going to change anything. So I'm going to sit down, or I'm going to call Chris tomorrow and see if I can sit down with him next week and go over that. I talked to Warden. You guys in the next day or two, we'll be getting the doodle survey about the meetings. We'll start with some options the last week in August, the first couple weeks in September. Let's see now. I did request generally our AUD is due July 31st because we have an abstract 14 that I am 93% sure that's the end of the invoices for 1920. Because we have the abstract 14, we needed to request an extension, which is not a big deal. We've probably, in the 8 years I've been in here, I think we've done it 6 out of those 8 years. I've talked to Dwayne. We're going to do our audit first week in November. So I tried to reiterate to him that probably this year of all years, that fund balance number is going to be very, very important come January. So he said that he didn't think that would be a problem to have our audit completed by then. I had emailed Warden. I don't know if he saw it yet. Unfortunately, with being out and trying to catch up on bills for July, which would have been May or June's, I didn't have a chance to do EMS balancing. So you're not going to see a big EMS abstract. I did ask Warden if I completed it in the next, this week, early next week, if I could put it on abstract 3 and write the checks to them so they had them and then just work. I don't believe I got an answer from you, Warden, if that's okay with you. Or we can just wait till August. It's really up to you guys.
Yeah, let's just wait till August.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's easier on me. this week I'm doing the afternoon shift and Morgan's nice enough to do the morning shift, take the morning shift this time because I have PT in the morning a couple days a week. So I guess by the end of the week, and Tammy's off on Monday too, she's going to call us so we can figure out what we're doing from here on out, you know. The only thing that I expressed to her was it's a little hard for me to work from home without transporting stuff back and forth. So we're going to try and see if we could come up with other options where we almost work remotely from home for at least a week. So if we can bring the stuff, but we haven't really talked about it. And I don't know if she's spoken to you about it, Gordon, or if you guys have any other ideas. It's really just me. It's just harder for me to work one day from home. I do have some stuff I can do. I'm going through the last couple of years of EMS, the balancing to make sure that I haven't missed any money going to any. I just want to make sure everything's taken care of. So I can do, my audit, like the state came in and did. I'm trying to do that again. So I can do that from home because that does take some time. Other than that, it's been dead. I mean, people are really nice about dropping their payments in the box when I'm there. You know, I've only really been back for a week, you know, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at the, just making a note to myself. I'll take a look at the office scheduling.
Okay. I mean, I do have this to do. I mean, I don't know how long it'll take me, but if we stuck to that original schedule, but.
Okay.
All right. I don't think, I mean, that's it. Like I said, I've only been back a week and pretty much caught up, except for I have a lot to do, but invoices are caught up.
Okay. Good. Anyone have any questions for Vicky? Tammy's on vacation. Morgan, do you have anything for us?
Not really. I just got back from vacation and I'm just trying to catch up on all the payments. But that's about it.
Okay, good. I don't have any specific items other than what's already on the agenda, so I'll skip right to old business. Item number 7, we have installation quotes to review and the heating quotes to go over. I'll just let you take it away, Ben.
Sure. So maybe a little bit of backstory first, and then we'll talk to the quotes. So as we all know, we switched away from the old boiler. We switched over to the air source heat pumps. One of the side effects of that is a lot of complaints about cold floors, as we're not heating the basement now, which is great, but it does mean that the floors are colder. So we went through previously in the year and the last year, I can't remember now, and put additional insulation underneath the front offices. And the last part of that is then to put insulation underneath the police office, which is a bit of a trick because it's pretty much just a crawl space and you're going to have to get in there with small children or something. I'm not quite sure. I hope they're not using children anyhow. So we have to get in there and spray some spray foam underneath that. So that's what 2 of the quotes are for in the Dropbox. There's one from Snug for, I think that was, I wrote that, that's for, let's see, 2,550. And another one from Energy Tech for 2,050. So $500 less. We've had a rough go, I would say, with Snug. They saw it through to the end finally, but it hasn't been an easy road. So I'm inclined to go with the cheaper bid from Energy Tech for that work. And maybe I'll just kind of carry forward and talk about the heat as well, because it's kind of all together. The one other last piece before finally removing the boiler is getting heat to a couple of the bathrooms where there's some concern about freezing pipes if we were to completely pull out that boiler. So there's 2 quotes as well for for putting some electric heat in those bathrooms. One is from, let me see, I'll pull it back up, but one Dusty pulled together, and then I actually asked Tom to get them to update because we hadn't actually actioned on it, from Bauer Electrical. That's for just north of 1,700. And another one from Andrew Fendrick, which Tom procured for us, which is just, what's that, 1,650 or so. So they're in the same ballpark, though I believe the Bauer Electrical is actually only for one bathroom, and the Andrew one is for two. Tom has worked with Andrew in the past, had good things to say about him. So I'm inclined to lean that way as well for the same price. I think we're actually getting both bathrooms that we really need heated. So that should be hopefully the last pieces before feeling more secure about the temperature in the building over the winter and being able to finally have the DPW actually pull the boiler out or finally decommission it one way or another. So to put those two together, I believe, Vicky, you said you were going to put a permissive referendum in the Dropbox for, oh, you're muted there.
I'm sure I'm sure it's there, didn't I?
Okay. You might have, I'm skimming
Have
it
today's
quick.
date.
Oh no, sorry, you did. And then I got confused by that and moved her. Yeah. Here, I'll rename it so it fits in with everything else.
Okay.
It says heating in 2 bathrooms and foam, fix that spelling, foam spray. 17, 13, 20. So it's a permissive referendum for up to $4,000 for the work, both for the bathroom heating and for the spray foam, from the building reserve to cover these 2 bills of work, about these 2 quotes that we've gotten. Yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short of it. If people have questions or.
Do you want to move that?
Yeah, sorry, I'll move that. Yep.
We have a motion on that permissive referendum. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think I saw Ben Carver say second, but I didn't hear him.
I got a second.
Leave that one up to Morgan, I think.
There you go. Somebody seconded it. Yeah, so we have a motion and a second on that. Any conversation? I guess I have one quick question about the boiler, which is not relevant to the permissive referendum. What's our backup in the case of extended power outage during a cold month? I mean, if the boiler doesn't work, then that's still not a backup. If it works badly, then it's a backup.
It's a good question. I mean, it could be left around. We can definitely as long as we're able to, well, my thought is I want to be able to turn it off completely, though, of course, that scares me trying to think about turning it back on, later on for a need. I mean, basically, I don't think there is one other than looking at electrical generator of some sort.
I was going to say, do we look at another? I mean, we have the portable generator, but that's for the well pumps primarily. Do we look at a portable generator for facilities?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, this would be all electrical, which is probably unlike any of the other buildings, I imagine.
All right, something to think about.
Yeah.
Before we.
It's a good point. I'll take that down. Yeah, we're not quite there yet to actually remove the boiler. So It's a good point to think about when we get there. So yeah, Vicky?
Can I just tell you, Tom Myers had said today that Houseworth will not come back and fix our boiler again. It's not, he doesn't think he can. Just to let you guys know that if something did happen.
Yeah. I don't think it's not reliable enough to feel like it's a really good second backup. But before we fully pull it out, it's a good thing to kind of think about as part of that final project here.
Any other questions or comments on the permissive referendum and expenditure specifically? Okay. Well, then hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the spending on the spray foam insulation and additional heat as written in the permissive referendum, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Didn't sound like it. Okay. Anything else on that, Ben?
That's it for those two items.
Okay, insulation and bathrooms. Any other old business that didn't make its way onto this list? Okay. Item number 8 is new business. We have in the Dropbox under item 8A, there's a Word version and a PDF version, a draft flag policy. As everyone on the board knows, Ben sent an email to Guy with some questions on various items. And Ben had the pleasure of being dragged down a rabbit hole of First Amendment jurisprudence, courtesy of Guy Crow. And what we have is a resulting flag policy that closely mimics the counties, although there are some slight differences. I'm hoping everyone has had a chance to review it. The only thing we would have to determine is under item 12 in the policy, where locations, what village locations or village-owned property where flags may be displayed. And I don't know how granular we want to get. Certainly we have, we could leave it up to department heads, I suppose. There's a flag pole outside of the police department. There's a flag pole at the fire department. There's the large flagpole on the island in front of Rondon's that is a village pole. So we could, I don't think it's necessary, although certainly we could do it if we wanted to. I don't know that it's necessary that every location displays every flag that we might be flying at any given time. That is a lot of extra work for departments and or DPW. Do we want to say that, well, you see where I'm going. Where do we want to fly? When do we want to fly? That kind of thing. Other than the American flag.
I think it's important to not phrase as want. Really, what is prudent for us? Because, to go back to Ben's email, which I apologize for not responding to at the time, but Guy does make it sound like we are very limited in what we can do. So I do want to just make that point, though, that it's not the flag that we want to fly necessarily. It's what it's prudent for us as a municipality to fly.
Right. No, I'm more thinking in terms of if, for instance, one of these approved flags is flown on a particular month,
Right.
Do we fly it at the village hall only? Do we fly them everywhere the village owns property with a flagpole? I don't want to get overly granular on this kind of thing, but it does. The question does
just
come to mind.
Yeah, just logistically, I like the idea of just at the village hall. I think it's clearly kind of the center of it all, and it keeps it constrained to just one flag. For if we have this, I will admit this one has, kind of goes towards the like extreme side of flags that are prudent. So to have, then 4 or 5 of these each just seems kind of a lot of logistics, especially for some that are only flown for a day or a few days here and there to kind of run them around and get them up and down and so forth. So I'm inclined just to think just in front of the village hall, but I'd be open to other people's ideas for sure.
I think that could be included in the request, maybe. If someone wants to request that a flag be flown, for instance, in front of Rondon's, I think is a very visible place. If I ever had cause to request a flag be flown, I think that's where I would want it as much as in front of the village hall. But I think it could be worth, just including in section 4, maybe that, anyone wishing to obtain flag space would include in their request where they would like it to be. I also, as sort of a side note, I think we should include a veto power for the board, that if we don't want to fly a flag, that should be in there. But those would be my 2 comments, I think.
And I think once it's on the list, then we're giving it the green light.
I mean, my concern is just the list is quite long. So if a lot of people wanted to fly a lot of flags and we don't have a way to say no, and our flagpole's only 25 feet high,
Yeah.
Well, you
know,
can only do 2. I think it tells you how many you can do,
It-
but
Yeah.
who's responsible for the purchase of the flags? I mean,
I'd
if we
put that on-
have them
I'd-
here,
Yeah, so I'd put that on us. Anne had brought that up to me and it sounded like a good idea, though I wasn't considering multiples of the flags. I think we could possibly, if the board's interested in us procuring maybe the first one, and someone could suggest where that one would go. And if they want to fly additional ones and we're amenable to that, then they could purchase additional ones.
I mean, I think honestly, the simplest, and I'm thinking about logistically and work for DPW, because they'll probably be the ones doing it. The simplest is Village Hall. I actually like the idea. I don't think I mentioned it to anyone. I like the idea of putting a flagpole in front of Village Hall across the sidewalk from the Village of Trumansburg sign. I know we have one out back, but rather than trying to fly something from the porch, having a respectable flagpole, nicely landscaped on the other side of that sidewalk in front of the porch, I think would look nice. And if that's the location where a flag is flown, then that certainly keeps it simple.
I like that. I like that idea.
Any other thoughts on this draft policy? Then if not, then with that addition in point 12, unless of course we can amend this anytime if we find another location we like better. Would someone like to move this draft policy for consideration?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion?
I do want to just reiterate, I think there's a scenario where a lot of people request it and there's limited space. So there should be a way that we can say which ones go and which ones don't, or that kind of thing.
It does say that you can't have more than 2 below the US flag.
Yeah, but
So if we're
then,
only
like,
having
which two?
Right.
well,
That
the
is a
second
question.
one would be New York State. In any case,
If it
Right.
was requested. I mean, do we usually fly the New York State flag? I don't think so.
We have it in the meeting room. We just have never flown one.
Right.
The way it's written says it
Probably should.
could be the New York State flag. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
You make a good point. It starts becoming we're now back into judgment calls, which is what we were trying to kind of get away from in the first place.
I mean, we could just rank them in terms of the order that they would fly. So if someone requests, H, and we're already flying G, then.
well, since they're for specific months,
Oh yeah, and
that
those two are
probably is
specific.
not going to happen. But you do have G and J at the same time.
Right, possibly F, G, and J on the same time if you
F,
get a
G, and
particular day.
J,
Or A, B, C, D.
or
Correct.
yeah, this is.
Well,
I don't
Probably,
think
probably
D.
not D in Trumansburg.
Yeah,
Well, but it only requires one person to request it. So
Well, it's true to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it's 2 below the American flag and it's full, then it will have to be declined. The request will have to be declined. First come, first serve is not discretionary. It's kind of.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And then if this becomes a practical issue, right now it's theoretical, right? If it becomes practical, I think we could.
that's true. Yeah, it's sort of off in the weeds a little bit. It seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
But yeah, I can just see someone early requesting like all of these other flags to therefore bump off the flag that they don't want to see. And
Right.
if that gets there, I'm back to no flags. You don't get any flags.
I would say it's unlikely, but it is 2020. All right, well then if there's no other edits to the flag policy, I'll call for a vote.
I mean,
All in favor?
I still have a question. I'm sorry. If I heard that we're purchasing them. These all
That's
of
how I
these-
wrote
so
it.
we're gonna
Yes.
so we're gonna have we're gonna purchase each of these different types of flags, right?
That's
And they have to
that's how
be
it's written
kept
right
in-
now.
Kept in whatever. Yeah, I don't like that. All right.
I mean, that's how I wrote it, but this is all up for conversation, obviously.
I mean, the people that are requesting, I think they should, beyond the municipal flags, I think they should provide the flag.
It feels like maybe another one where we just wait and see if it becomes an issue. If we're
Yeah,
buying, if
I
we're buying
guess.
20 flags, then cross that
I
bridge.
mean, we're pretty constrained on the reality is we've got the U.S. flag, which we already have. I think then it's up to us if we actually want to fly the New York flag. We don't have to. We could. And then the other question, then it would be us purchasing like a pride flag, a Palmia flag, a Juneteenth flag. It's, there's like 5 or 6 of them here. I've already purchased a Juneteenth flag, which I intend to donate to the village should the village accept. So I'm sure we could probably get some of these donated too if just wrangling was kind of a concern. I put it on us to procure it, however we might decide to do that.
Okay. That's fine.
And I don't know that we need to pre-procure anything. I mean, the beauty of Amazon is if we get a request and if someone requests a flag we don't have and it gets approved, then it can be here in a couple of days anyway. Okay. Any other thoughts or discussions on this? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor of adopting this document as discussed and edited as the Village of Trumansburg flag policy, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, item number new business 8B, we have Ben again with a draft village energy report from 2019.
Been a busy week, busy month. Yeah, so the draft energy report, I had sent, I think, both chunks of this around at 2 different times for people to review. But now it's here kind of in one consolidated report. Just a little backstory is that in 2017, as part of our start to get the clean energy designation, which we received last year, this board passed a resolution saying that we would put out an annual report of the energy use of the buildings that are over 1,000 square feet that the village owns. So now that we completed that designation and we've finally gotten all the data together and in the right places and in the online tool, and thank you, Vicky, for doing a lot of that work that kind of creates all these reports. We finally have our first actual report or the ability to create one. So this is kind of a combination of some reports from that tool, because this Energy Star kind of scorecards for each of the buildings. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that fit the criteria. And then I also pulled that together and created just a chart to show over the past 3 years, each year, how much greenhouse gas emissions each building has contributed. And then combine that finally with some kind of context and comments at the beginning, just to say what I had previously just said here about how we kind of came to be with this report, pointing out some of the action items that we took to be recognized as a clean energy community, and then some additional work that we've done since then in this area with converting the village hall to LED bulbs and improving some of the weatherization, some of the stuff that we were just talking about today. And then finally, kind of pointing towards some ideas we have on the future. We're talking about the street light LED conversion, continuing to finish up the weatherization stuff that we put the proposed referendum out for today. And some of the other future ideas. I know Rorden had mentioned the idea of municipal solar power at the State of the Village that we might start looking into. And there's a further designation, climate smart communities, that we might pursue. So just kind of outlining where the road might take us. So that's kind of the rough gist of this. I don't think it needs any sort of formal resolution or anything. I'm happy to kind of put this out there as is. I'd love to hear if anyone had any additions or feedback on it. Otherwise, I think I was just going to post it on the website as kind of a news item and find a good place for it to live a little bit beyond just a news item.
I don't really have any comments other than that it is both encouraging that we're sort of trending in the right direction, and discouraging to see where we started in concrete terms. I mean, it's, yeah, but you know, data points are always good, so it's good.
Yeah, I was happy to see, you know, that we've most of the buildings have gone, with the exception of the fire hall, have gone down, and some, the village hall, for instance, where we've done more of the work, considerably so, which was nice to see. But yeah, still obviously a lot to do, and important to hold ourselves accountable by putting the data out there.
This is helpful though, particularly the fire station piece. When we do start looking at some point, when we start looking at new construction one way or another, I'm thinking in terms of grant applications and whatnot. If the rest of the village and newer facilities and even old 19th century houses that became village offices, if they're all becoming more efficient in this one, maybe one of the most important buildings in the village isn't going the right way, then that I could see that helping us from a financing standpoint. No, this is good. Any other thoughts on the energy report?
Yeah, it's good. Thanks, Ben.
And it is the Ben Darfler show tonight. Next item under new business is a quote for, or at least a discussion of a quote over the village, a possible village website refresh. I did go back and look. It was late 2016, I think, or was it 2017? The current village website was redesigned. In fact, I'm sure it was late 2016. So we're coming up on 4 years, and in internet and technology time, it may as well be 40. So we're out of date already. So what do you have on that for us, Ben?
Yeah, so I've been chatting with Rorden a bit about, it kind of came from like the economic development perspective, to be honest. Just recognizing that when you look up Village of Trumansburg, we are by far and away the #1 result. We really are by default kind of the digital face of the village, and thinking about wanting to improve the look and feel of that. Kind of unrelated, a friend of mine who I've worked with actually at a previous company who lives in Canandaigua has been recently redone the town of Hopewell's page, where he's a resident and sits on their planning board. And he is trying to make a go of this as kind of an actual specific venue of his efforts to help municipalities kind of around central and southern tier New York improve their website. So he's got a platform that he maintains that we would support our website. He would provide full kind of soup to nuts design assistance, getting it all set up, getting things converted over, training for anyone who wants to work on the website and add content over time. Any additional improvements that we would want to make throughout, over time, we could reach back out to him and he would help out with. Includes things like a contact form, custom development. It would be mobile friendly, which ours is okay actually at. He also did a report on accessibility requirements, which is a village we need to pay attention to, and we're not great at that right now, to be honest. And he has an eye towards that and make sure that that's all fine and well. And any continuing kind of improvements he makes to the general platform. So he's looking at bringing in the ability to accept payments if we wanted to look at that approach versus the one that we currently have potentially. And just kind of continuing to build out as he does for adding more municipalities. He'll kind of come with features that would work for municipalities. So his package is a $200 a month flat fee. It's kind of like a holding him on retainer kind of, as it were. But he does, hosting for the website, continuous upkeep and support, that kind of a thing. I've had the pleasure of signing into the back end of our website, and I don't know if it can scream any more at you at how out of date it is and what things need to be updated. And I can only imagine the security vulnerabilities lying in wait there. So this isn't, I didn't go out to get a bunch of different quotes. This kind of just happened we just happened to be chatting, and he mentioned he had done it for, like I said, the town of Hopewell. So he kind of passed it along to me. But I like the look and feel of the town of Hopewell's page. I think it could do a lot for us to improve the look and feel of ours, and hopefully make it more, have just better content too. I think we could probably restructure some things and have a better way of making it more usable as well as more pleasing on the eye. So anyhow, that's the conversation, is kind of, do we want to go down the path of looking into doing a refresh of the website? And then if so, if this is interesting, and what else we should go look for to kind of have comparables.
So I did take an opportunity to look at the town of Hopewell, and I agree that our website probably does need a refresh. I think that we should go out and get some other bids and look at, I also went and looked at the town of Dryden, the town of Cortlandville, and some others. And actually everybody else seems to be using a standard municipality package called Civic something. You might want to take a look at that too, Ben.
Sure.
Everything's from the town of Hopewell. It looks like it's so much smaller than us. It doesn't seem to have as even as much meat in what we put on our website as we do. So I think that maybe we should go out and look some more.
Yeah, no, I didn't think this would kind of be the end all and be all. I'd definitely love to do some more research.
Ben Carver, thoughts?
I haven't had much of a chance to look through it. I did look quickly at the Hopewell website. I like the idea of it. I think it's tricky with websites because it comes down to sort of what functionality do we need? What does that change? And then just the aesthetics of it. And it's hard to evaluate at what point we want to put money into the aesthetics of the website. But I'm not opposed to at least investigating how, what it would cost to do it and what we would get out of it.
The other thing I wanted to point out, I know that you mentioned something about card compliance, being able to put in credit cards.
Yep.
And again, I'll go back to PCI and compliance. That's not something that is standard in most sites, and that's why we don't do it.
Yeah,
And,
no, he would be doing it through Stripe, I think, is the one
Yeah.
he was thinking
right.
about.
And then now you've got, there's a cost that goes with that, and it's cost per transaction that has to be evaluated in it. So.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, that's how they all work, right? That's how ours works currently. We just pass it back to the person, which is what I'm sure we would do here. That's what, when we were chatting about it with the town of Hopewell, that was the idea for them too, is to pass that cost back to the person using the service.
So I like the idea of shopping around and getting a couple of additional quotes for service. I personally like the idea of a site refresh. I think every few years, as long as it's not confusing to the end user, every few years is nice to stay relevant. Make sure it's easy to administer. I mean, I want no part of managing a website other than to be able to upload a news item if necessary. So having someone who does that the last time we had the refresh done, I think it was a big improvement from what had existed prior. And that had been, I think, 8 years since that had been done, and then probably 7 years prior to that when the last one. So.
And you were the primary, if I remember, not the last time, but the one before. You were the one that was doing all of the updates.
100% of it. Yep.
Yep.
So I'm happy with each refresh to do less
Yeah.
when it comes to the website. But yeah, no, I think, as price compression has hit that industry and it becomes more cost effective to just have an administrator who handles all of the back end work and a simple interface for those of us who want to be able to post items, I'm all for it. And then to Ben's first point, we're seeing a lot of, when we were doing the COVID impact survey work with the local businesses, we were just seeing a lot of pressure for easy to use single points of information, particularly from municipalities. There's a tourism angle, and we don't want to take the place of the chamber, certainly. And with a .gov address, there are some limitations on what we can put on the site to keep the .gov domain. But I think aesthetics are in the eye of the beholder, but to keep it looking good and timely and relevant. A lot of things happened in 2020. Why not a site refresh? So yeah, Ben, if you want to track down a couple more comparable quotes just to see what.
Yeah,
What else
I
is out
found
there?
the Civics Plus page. I'll take a look at I guess they're not going to tell me their pricing. I've got to ask for quotes. So I guess I'll go through that process and then see if I can't find one or two more.
Okay, great. Anything else for new business? I feel like I'm forgetting something.
I'll just jump in and say thanks, Ben. I'm looking here at my notes and it's just Ben Darfler. So thank you
I
for,
did
for
notice
a
that.
really, really busy month, I'm sure, or 2 months even.
Just all
Appreciate
kind
it.
of fell together in one big go.
It rains, of course. It's the nature of the game, but it's appreciated, man.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you.
The RFP.
Just wait till, yes, thank you.
Oh,
Just wait till we start offloading lots and lots and lots of stuff onto Jessica's plate here in a couple months. Yes, Vicky, thank you for the reminder. I think she swore at me, but she was muted.
I said, you're welcome.
So we have in the Dropbox a last minute addition. It is information which I did forward to everyone by email yesterday, I believe. We have received our quotes back, and I actually created a folder in here to make it less confusing. A folder in the Dropbox by the name of bond refunding. These are serial bonds issued in 2007 at the tail end of the Main Street project, which we have the ability to repay early. We approved the RFP last month, got it out quickly, got back responses very quickly, which was nice. Our bond advisory firm, Municipal Solutions, does have a recommendation. We have the statistics, if you're interested, if you haven't had a chance to look, as to how they compare. And because the firm that Municipal Solutions is recommending is a local bank, there are a number of bond underwriting fees that don't apply, which saves the village money. Just pulling up one thing for the recording. The Municipal Solutions is recommending that we go with just waiting for everything to
Green
open here.
County.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the document to
Oh,
open.
sorry.
Speaking of new computers, time to get one. Okay. Okay, so Municipal Solutions is recommending that we go with Greene County Commercial Bank. Other bids submitted came from Bank of New York Mellon, Roosevelt and Cross, which is a large bond firm, and R.W. Baird. The Greene County Commercial Bank quote had the highest savings to the village in the amount of $214,434 and change, which is a little over 19% over what we would be paying if we did not refund these bonds. That's and let's take a half a step back. That's the current value of the total savings. Total savings over time, because we're looking out 15 years. Total savings over time is almost $240,000. So it's a fair bit of savings. And if we want to do it, we have to approve it tonight so that they can get all of the paperwork in to get the bonds refunded by October, which is the deadline. So we have in this folder a resolution which would accept Greene County Commercial Bank's bid. And I want to see if there's any, well, yeah, if we can, I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution, and then we can discuss it further if necessary.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or conversation?
So I just have a couple, I mean, the decision seems to be a no-brainer, but just a couple questions quick. Primarily, why isn't this always done? Is it just that banks don't have the appetite to take on loans this big? Is that
Which
generally what
part?
it is?
The refunding in general, or the fact that we have a bank bidding?
I mean, we have, bonds for, any number of different things that it seems like if this was always an option, why didn't we take it? I'm just for curiosity's sake, I'm wondering why banks don't generally bid on those, on municipal debt the way that this one did.
So those are two separate questions. One is, the first question is, I think the village has done a refunding once that I'm aware of. Possibly, and I think it was even before Vicky's time, Tammy might remember, I think it may have had something to do with a water tower. There may have been a refunding of a piece of that. When you look at water and sewer, all of that is funded as essentially a 30-year fixed loan with interest rates that are lower than anyone can compete with. So if it's a zero interest, obviously we're not going to refinance that. Some of your municipal debt are funded like a mortgage as a single note over a long period of time. Right. This, for whatever reason, I don't recall why it was done this way. This one was done as serial bonds. So you have, if you need to raise $1 million, you have 10 bonds at 100,000 each with different maturity dates. And there can be some interest rate advantages to that. Now, interest rates, if you think about 2007, you could still get 5% in a savings account. So it seems like a long time since we've had higher interest rates, but it wasn't all that long ago. So when interest rates are going down, obviously, just like your mortgage, it's it can be a good time to refinance if you have the option to. So with these serial bonds, with their different maturities and an early call date, which is another interesting piece that someone built in 2007, gives us the option to do kind of the municipal version of an early refinance.
And the banks
now-
have, I'm sorry,
ahead.
keep going.
No,
Rory.
go ahead.
I was going to say, and the banks themselves can only certain banks can bid on it because they have to have enough capital funds available for those timeframes so that they can even lend the money.
Correct. So I think so, and I'm guessing a little bit here, but this green, although I don't know them, they are a commercial bank. So commercial banks have access to lending facilities that community banks and other types don't. So I know that there are certain lending facilities open to commercial banks right now at lower interest rates from the Fed than traditionally are available. So they must have just decided if we can get some, high quality municipal debt, which is tax advantaged, then they would borrow cheap and lend slightly less cheap. In a normal interest rate world, a lot of commercial banks can't compete with the big bond houses in terms of interest rate.
We've done.
Plus the big,
I'm sorry, Vernon. I'm sorry.
plus the big bond houses, if they don't like the debt that they just wrote, they can trade it off somewhere else. Banks have a harder time doing that.
We've done
Yeah,
some
Vicky.
of our bands renewals with Greene County. I've worked with them a lot, and they're really good.
So maybe they've made a business model decision to expand their municipal portfolio, and they like doing business with us. They see us as a good credit risk, so they decided to bid. That's a possibility.
And then just one other question, which is the 25,000 fee or whatever that was. What is that for?
That is just what it is. It's a fee for service. So in this it's an interesting world. There is it's actually very similar to taking out the mortgage. When you close on a mortgage, you'll see all kinds of ancillary fees built in, and it's a tiny percentage of the total value, so you generally don't think too much about it. But whether it's the county mortgage tax, the attorney's fees, the bank attorney's fees, commissions for this, fees for that. So it's a similar idea. And it's, although it's a flat fee from Municipal Solutions, they will have calculated it somehow off of the value.
Yeah. So it's just all of those things together. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for humoring my ignorance. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. And in fact, that's a good question, Tony. So it's just over 1% of the original bond amount. So 2.045 million was what was bonded in 2007. So 25,000 would be 1.05, 1.1%. So that's about right. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? If not, then we have a motion to adopt this bond refunding resolution. And I will call for a vote. All in favor of it, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Vicky, will you print that? And there's a couple spots for items to be
Yes, Morgan's going to sign them tomorrow.
inserted and completed, and then Morgan can sign and notarize that.
Gordon, I think we need the vote from you too.
That would be an aye.
Okay. Okay. Yep, I'll get them back to Maggie tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Okay, item number 9 is bills. Let's pay some bills, Dropbox. Deb doesn't want to pay bills.
No, I'm just looking, trying to get to them.
Let's start with abstract 14, which is from the end of the 2019-2020 fiscal year. We have a general fund abstract in the amount of $9,988.86.
I move that we pay $9,988.86 from the general fund.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Also, from the end of the 2019-2020 fiscal year, we have a water fund abstract in the amount of $471.75.
I move that we pay $471.75 from the water fund.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We have also a sewer fund abstract in the amount of $243.38.
I move that we pay $243.38 from the sewer fund.
Second. Do we have any idea what the COVID, that last item is?
Supplies for COVID, it's gonna be MOMAR. It's probably masks and sanitizers, and I'm guessing, but I
So
guess
for the-
that's what it is.
Aren't they working in there alone?
But they.
Who's
still
working
go
in
out
where?
and
They
DPW
still need to go
goes
out.
there.
They still need to wipe down their steering wheels because
Hmm,
the next day somebody else gets in, or that afternoon, or whatever. They
Yeah.
still-
But I know at one point Royden had asked that all that stuff be kept track of
Mm,
because there was a possibility it would be reimbursed.
right.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I put that there. So when we pulled it up, we would know.
So we have a motion and a second on the sewer fund abstract. Any other discussion? If not, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We still have this lingering capital project, Safe Routes to School. Looks like we have
How is this possible?
paperwork in the amount of
Bond paperwork?
$24.96.
I move that we pay $24.96. Is this now dead? I mean, is this now completed, Vicky?
I believe so, Debbie. That's, I had to send the original paperwork to Greene County Bank from when we refinanced the band. So that's the UPS charge for it.
Okay, thank you.
That's still not a promise.
Nope.
No.
So we have a motion. Did we get a second on this one?
Yeah, I second.
All right. Then all in favor of paying this abstract, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, abstract number 2. So now we're in the current fiscal year. These
Somebody
numbers
else can
look
do
like-
these.
Yeah. General fund abstract in the amount of $577,867.43.
Move that we approve this general fund abstract.
Second.
And this actually does remind me of something that I forgot to mention in my report, which is that one of the reasons that Chris and I have been struggling to get reports together is that image trend is very, very difficult. And he has heard sort of, through the grapevine, different people work at different agencies, that there are other programs out there. So I've asked him to look into those and just see what's available. We started with image trend basically because we got it, through a grant program. So we never really investigated what programs were available and that kind of thing. So I don't know if anything will come of it, if they are as good as people say or whatever. But I just wanted to let people know that that is hopefully, something we're investigating anyway.
I have an amendment to this abstract. I added an extra 300,000 to the payment for the lease for the KME truck. It's supposed to be
1841.
Yes, it's supposed to be 33,000, not 330. So instead of 577, it's 277,000. I will
I'm
fix
going to ask
that.
about that.
I will, I will
Yeah.
fix that tomorrow.
So I was pretty sure that's the cost of the whole truck.
Pretty much. So I apologize for that. My fingers got tired or something.
I'm going to ask if that was a balloon payment.
Yeah, no, that's a Vicky payment.
No, we don't do those. I know very little about municipal funding, but I'm pretty sure that's not a good thing.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll correct that tomorrow.
That was a post-surgery pain medication payment.
Woo!
Okay, so we have a general fund abstract then in the amount of $277,867.43. If someone would like to make a motion to approve that.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Is there another 300,000 we can save there, please?
No, sorry.
If there's no additional discussion, then all in favor of approving this abstract, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We have an EMS billing abstract in the amount of $1,274 even.
Move that
I
we
move-
approve that EMS billing abstract.
Second.
Second.
Any additional discussion? If not, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 We have a water fund abstract, $34,858.22.
Move that we approve that abstract.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yay.
Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed. We have a sewer fund abstract, $36,556.51.
Move that we approve that abstract.
Second.
Any additional discussion? If not, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 And last but not least, we have the trust and agency abstract in the amount of $54,596.77.
Move that we approve that abstract.
Second.
Looks like we have two health consortium bills on here. Any additional discussion? If not, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Need one more. You there, Deb?
Yep. I
missed it.
said aye.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, I missed it. Okay. So we're at item number 10 on the agenda, our second public comment period. If Jessica has anything additional to say, now would be the time.
Hi, I do. Hi, thanks. I also moved outside for this public comment because I neglected, there's two things actually I'd like to say. One is I've made a public announcement as race director for the Trumansburg Criterium New York State Championship races that they will not be conducted this year in 2020. So there will be no New York State Criterium Championship races, period, nor will the Trumansburg Crit be conducted here in our village this year. next year in 2021, we will enjoy the honor again of being hosts of the New York State Criterion Championship, should all of that flow with permitting. I did make an announcement on Instagram, but saying it here publicly as well. Share it amongst your friends. The other thing, and as I understood, and if I had read the agenda better, I might have mentioned it in my first public comment, but in case you all haven't maybe considered this notion of flags and what we fly, and I think I understood the words were draft as we talk about our policy. Maybe I misinterpreted that, but I recognize that not everybody feels represented by the American flag, even though we all are Americans. All the things that we believe in are supposed to be represented in that image. That when you start talking about flying the individual flag of a given revolution, that what you're doing, much like accounting, is taking a snapshot of that revolution in that moment. And sometimes the leaders and the voice of a revolution can change. And so before you get in the muddy waters of flying a flag and having to choose who's more important if there's only 2 spaces on the line, I just took a peek at our comprehensive plan. And the first bullet under our 20-year vision is that the community values safety, economic and cultural diversity, and local cultural history in concert with an accessible and attractive commercial center that supports the needs of residents and visitors to the village. So I don't know that we have a coat of arms as the village of Trumansburg, but I would really encourage you to think as village trustees that our comprehensive plan is greater than any one moment, as long as it is inclusive. So I don't know where you can go with that. And I don't. Can anyone answer? Do we have a coat of arms? Do we have like a village of Trumansburg that embodies all of our great voices in the comprehensive plan? Because it's all of the great movements. And so if it's a way that you can figure out to support something happening in the moment without having to fly its flag and excluding other people, or making a choice, your flag is better and more worthy than this flag, I would just encourage you to think of that. Thank you.
I'll actually say something to respond to that, because I've now gone around on flags way more than I expected to in my life. It's a really interesting problem. And I think when we started this conversation last month, the general sense of the board, or at least kind of where we leaned towards at the end of that month, that meeting, was to use our judgment to support flags that seemed to comport with what this board felt, was in the best interest and in the best spirit of the community. And we've since realized, after talking at length with council, that is an incredibly slippery slope. That basically, once you allow for kind of arbitrary flying of flags, you're essentially creating a forum for free speech, the flag being a type of speech. This is from a very legal perspective, and I don't pretend to understand all of it, but you quickly get to putting the board into a position where you're regulating free speech and whose speech is allowed and whose speech is not allowed. And so I don't think I actually, I feel like now in retrospect, I didn't do a good enough job of explaining what that flag policy was when we were talking about it. We've been looking at it as a board, but obviously not clearly enough in front of the public. So to take just a moment to speak to that, the kind of structure that most municipalities, the county, I just actually saw a copy of the town of Carolines. We were reviewing the town of Lansing's previously as well as examples, tends to stay with flying flags of federally and or state approved holidays and observances as a way to kind of create a boundary that shows support for a wide variety of different experiences in different parts of our community, but is formalized in a way that kind of stays outside of this picking and choosing. So the list in the policy that we just accepted includes things like the pride flag for June, July. No, June, yes. The Juneteenth flag for June 19th, the Pan-African flag for Black History Month in February, those types of things that are already considered and adopted in our state or in our nation to fly those flags. And then the rest of it to kind of stay on the side and think of other ways like the resolution that we put together and posted in the Free Press to support the kind of more immediate issues as they arise throughout the year or throughout the history of our country and the village, really.
Great, thank you. I guess I'm also just encouraging this board to consider flying loud and high the good words of our comprehensive plan, which are the words of all of us, as best you can. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Item number 11 is executive session. Do we have a need for one? Do we actually not have a need for an executive session?
Has Keith joined?
Keith has not joined.
Is there
Huh.
anything for his section of board updates that we need to or can discuss without him? I didn't know what was on his plate.
I don't know all of what was on his plate. I know he wanted to look at, we had tabled expenditures for new body cams, and he had an update, I believe, from Chief Nelson on what direction he wanted to go with that, but I don't have that.
I do have a question if without election, when is the election? Sorry.
You've asked that question a lot in the last couple of years.
Are we done yet? Are you done yet?
Are we there yet?
September the 15th, I believe.
Okay. And it's effective October 1st then, or?
I believe the executive order says it's effective as soon as the election is certified by the Board of Elections, so it could be
Okay.
sooner.
Alrighty then.
Can't come fast enough.
Yeah, well.
She's not going to get her hopes up this time.
No, I thought it was gone 4 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so no Keith, giving him a couple seconds. He's not going to make it. So if we do not have a need for executive session, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wow. I move that we adjourn. Can't believe it's so early.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Hi.
And we stand adjourned. Let me pause the recording.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Hi,
See you, Dad.
Jess.
Yeah.
Bye.